Yo, counter this morning, so I'm good. How's your week going?
Progress. I'm good. I'm on vacation starting today, so
Nice.
y'all got me on vacay mode.
Oh, nice. That's what's up. Need a break sometimes, right?
Yes, my sister is getting married on Friday, so I'm headed back to California for the wedding and to just disconnect. I'm all for it. I'm excited though.
Dope. That's dope stuff. Well, thank you for joining. So it was kind of funny. So let me let me update everybody on kind of how this happened. So last week I went live. I was on IG live. I was on YouTube live. I was doing both. And so I'm answering questions, going back and forth. And then I seen you come in on IG, but then I kind of went and focused on YouTube. And then I turned back on IG and like Morgan's knocking out questions left and right. And then I get on IG and then I'm scrolling. Then I get back on YouTube. She's on YouTube knocking out questions. So I was just like, yo, we gotta get her on. For those of you who don't know who Morgan McKnight is, she is the executive director at the Production Music Association. So I guess introduce yourself, tell the people a little bit about yourself, what you do, and about PMA and what they do there.
Yeah, sure. First, before I go, am I coming through clear? Like it's freezing on my end for my video? Is that just me? I'm ignoring it or like delayed.
It is freezing a little bit on your end. Like I can hear your voice isn't freezing, but your video is freezing sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyways, okay, well, I will talk and maybe I can try to figure out the video situation.
Okay.
Yeah, so my name is Morgan McKnight. I work with the Production Music Association. I'm the executive director. I've been there for 5.5 years now. We are a nonprofit based membership or a nonprofit membership based association that is very specific and focused in on the production music, library music space very specifically. We work with composers and publisher members on a wide variety of things from royalty collections to legislative battles that we may have for our space specifically. We connect composers with libraries, composers with composers, libraries with libraries when we look at, sub-publishing deals and arrangements. So a variety of stuff. We're really here to serve the interests and best represent the production music space as necessary. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great space full of opportunity.
Yeah, that's super dope. Because it's funny. So I knew about PMA. I knew about, libraries that were associated with PMA, but it wasn't until I think I was like in a clubhouse room and you were on the panel, and I didn't even know that like it makes sense looking back, but I didn't even know composers could like sign up with or become a member of PMA. I thought it was like only for music libraries. So that's pretty cool.
That's like fairly new. Okay. The PMA started like 25 or so years ago, and it was very specifically a publisher member or a publisher association. It was formed because some of the broadcasters, there was issues with royalty collection on commercials and adverts and promos on broadcasters. So the publishers came together and said, hey, you're not paying us for our music. And they kind of, power in numbers, strength in numbers. They said their piece. They went on to fight back against the broadcasters. One, obviously, that's why we receive royalties for promos and adverts on broadcast TV now. But that conversation shifted about, 3-4 years ago or so as the space shifted to digital or continues to shift to digital. The problems are much larger. The misinformation is much larger. So it became one of those, the publishers don't exist without the music and without the composers. So we have to be collaborative and a collective group that represents all of everybody's best interest, not just publishers, but composers as well. So the composer membership tier is newish for us. I would say about 3-4 years old, but
Okay.
It's been great, steady, growing, and the community itself is just really, really special.
Yeah, I attended one of the lunch meetings on Zoom that we had a few weeks ago. It was pretty cool. Like we had the breakout groups, and just being able to be connected to like-minded people in the licensing space is really cool, and just get to talk to others who are doing doing the same thing. So it's super dope. Yes, speaking about the whole digital and streaming thing, like, do you think we'll get to a place where, like, because Netflix, Hulu, like the royalties that we see from those services are so small? Like, do you see that changing in the future, or is it gonna be a process kind of like it was when cable TV and everything kind of came out? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think that, patience is truly a virtue. In anything music related, the music industry itself, patience is truly a virtue. To put it into perspective, when Netflix first started getting music or attempting to get music, they were very actively asking and aggressively asking for direct license across the board. So there was pushback on that then forced their hand a little bit to start doing cue sheets and paying royalties and things like that. So, and that took some time. That, they were adamant about direct licensing. I think like a lot of there are other networks that rely on direct licensing or try to direct license. And Netflix was adamant about that until the pushback happened and people, said no. Really, people said no.
Right.
In saying no, they were like, okay, let's, revisit this and adopt the cue sheet model. They did that. So again, for perspective, do I think that we will see increased royalties or better payouts or more fair rates or some of these things? I think maybe. I think that there's a chance. I think that, there are a lot of people fighting for that. One of the things that we're looking at right now is CPAs, the commercials, promos, and adverts on the streaming apps, so like the Peacocks and Netflix, because they're not paying royalties on those right now. So how do we get royalties for commercials and promos and adverts on the streaming services? So it's, I do think that there will be changes. I do think that the pendulum will swing in a direction that where royalties are more impactful, or where they have more of an impact and the better, right? The rates are better. Is that going to be within the next year? I don't know. 2 years? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really slow. Like we're talking about, legislative, like even ASCAP and BMI are regulated by our government, right? So like we're talking about government at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it moves slow.
Yeah.
So do I think that it will always, I personally find it hard to believe that if we're looking at, the PROs, right? ASCAP and BMI specifically, that again, rely on royalties and performance royalties. That's their entire business model. So if royalties and all of that diminish, then their business diminishes too. So do we think that ASCAP and BMI, being the power players that they are just going to kind of like sit by and let that happen?
Yeah.
Maybe, but it doesn't sound, I'm not convinced that will be the case in the long run. It's going to take some time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I see some questions coming through. We got one from Broadway Blake. So he says, here's my question. I'm in the very early stages of managing a producer. I've heard you mention that music libraries take the publisher portion and the producer takes the writer portion of placements. There's a second part. If that is the case, how does the management company get compensated for placements they help secure through a music library? So I guess if he's a manager, he's securing the placements, but I guess he has the deal in place with the music library. Where does the manager get, their cut if the library's taking publisher share and the writer's taking writer share?
So the library will the standard library deal is only taking 50% of your publishing. To answer the where is your management fee going to come from, that's dependent on your relationship with the artist. And it's going to depend on the contract that you have with your artist. So if you're under a 10%, commission or whatever, 10%, 10% of royalties, I mean, that really goes into that is settled, to my knowledge, after the fact, like outside of the composer and the publisher relationship.
Yeah.
It's like a standard 50-50 publishing split. So you would retain 50% of your publishing, 50-50 sync split, and then 100% writers share you would retain. So that's going to be dependent on your agreement with the artist. If they pay 10% on royalties, I mean, whatever that contract says, you guys should have that contract in place between y'all. But it wouldn't. You would get the money from the publisher, and then you guys would have to decide how that's split up between the team, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. That's how I've seen it done. Like usually managers, especially like on the upfront sync fee, if it was like if they had an agreement for like 10%, then they would just give them 10% once that sync fee cleared. I've seen some people do it. I guess it's just dependent, like you said, it depends on the agreement. Some people do they'll do like 10% and write themselves in as like a writer to get royalties. I don't know, but yeah, I guess it depends on how you guys structure it, what you guys agree on, to make it make sense. Shout out to We Create Music TV. What's up, bro? Shout out to everybody coming in. As you guys are coming in, let me know where you're from and what you guys do, and hit us up with the questions. It's a live Q&A. I have Morgan McKnight with me from PMA, which is the Production Music Association, and we're just answering some questions on licensing. Shout out to Charles Jefferson. What's up, bro? Let's see. We got another question. Good afternoon, Clint and Morgan. My question is, can you own your publishing but still have placements where they take the publishing royalties if you agree to relinquish it for the placement?
Sure. Yes. I imagine that they're non-exclusive libraries. Do you keep your publishing when you sign with non-exclusive libraries? I think you do.
Yeah, I mean, because you can go. Well, so you like for the non-exclusive libraries, can you own your publishing and still a placement where they take the publishing royalties? So they like retitle it a lot of times. So they'll put like the prefix or something like in the beginning, and then they'll collect off of that placement that's connected to that title. And then if you're with another non-exclusive library, they'll kind of do the same thing, and then they'll just collect based on the title as far as royalties are concerned.
Yeah, I generally with exclusive libraries, you have to they own your publishing. They own your master and they own the copyright. So and then they just are entitled to 50% of the publishing. You can. I mean, I'm sure there are libraries and or others that operate under you being able to retain your publishing and then the split on the back end. Like I'm sure that exists somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's not standard. I wouldn't say that it's standard, but I mean, this is an industry that there are multiple ways to achieve the same thing. So yeah. I won't sit here and say that it's not possible, but I will say it's not standard.
Yeah. I've like when I started a few years back, there was still like some non-exclusive libraries hanging around, and then a lot of them were shifting towards exclusive. But they like some of them weren't like trying to own the masters right away. Like you could still kind of, no, I take that back. It was like a mixture. Like some was just like, like we want to outright just own the copyright in perpetuity, and then others had like a term to it. But now it seems like, from a lot of libraries I'm talking to now, like a lot of them it's just in perpetuity because it just, I don't know, it makes it easier for them. And it's just forever, and then you can't send that song to anybody else. It's
Yeah.
exclusive.
Hey, Clint, I'm gonna try a different browser. Can I
Okay.
hang up? I'm right back in. This is killing me.
Yeah. No problem.
Give me 1 second. Keep talking.
Okay, indeed. What's up, Remy Tones, producer from Jersey? Thanks for coming through, man. No problem, Broadway. Glad we can help. Herbie Brown, welcome back from Landover, Maryland. That's what's up. Got Stone Cage in the building. Greetings, Denver, producer, engineer. Good to see you. Samantha's back, singer-songwriter from Memphis, Tennessee. I heard y'all have good barbecue in Memphis. Just saying. No problem, Jefferson. Yeah, man. Okay, she's calling back. Let's see. Okay.
Maybe a little better.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with this.
Okay. Guess it was the browser.
Oh.
Technology. You gotta love it. What's up, Midwest Nate from Michigan? Good to see you, producer.
Thanks for letting me crash your Q&A, by the way.
No doubt, man. That's
I definitely crashed it last time, and there was somebody in the audience too that I responded to, and whoever it was like, "Thanks, but I wanted Clint to answer." And
did they? Oh my goodness!
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, but you know what? Because sometimes I'll have people come in and they don't really they probably didn't know who you were, but some people will come in and have no credentials whatsoever, and then they're just answering everybody's questions, and they're like, yo, who are you? But no, I appreciate you tackling some of those questions, because I was missing some of them. So it's good to have somebody in there that knows their stuff and is passing good information. What's up, Immaculate? We got Boy Wonder back in from Fayetteville, North Carolina. So yeah, we have Morgan McKnight here from the Production Music Association. So if you guys have any questions about licensing, music libraries, how all of that work, we're here, man. We're just answering questions. We'll be here for the hour. Shout out to Vibes in the City. And let me know where you guys are from and what you do, and we'll try and help you. That's what we're here for. Good afternoon, everyone. Shout out to Clint and Morgan for the info. Shout out to We Create Music. Been checking out their content recently as well. Yeah, We Create Music, man, is super good people, man. My guy B over there, a lot of dope information and interviews on the music business and stories from people who are doing different things in the business. So you guys should definitely follow that YouTube channel as well. There's a lot of dope things on the way from them. So yeah, so how did you get in the whole music licensing space? Was it something you always worked in, and then the opportunity with PMA came up? How did you kind of get started in this space?
I didn't know what production music was until I started. I have a predominantly marketing communications background with a bit of an emphasis in event planning.
Okay.
So I went to school at Cal State Northridge to get my master's in music industry administration.
Dope.
So through that process, and we had a publishing course, so I was introduced to publishing quite literally in that class, and the opportunity at the PMA kind of went up and was made a job or whatever. And that publishing professor at the time, I connected with him, and then we kind of connected with the board, who was the board of the PMA at that time. And then I interviewed, and the rest is history. But yeah, no, I didn't know what production music was. I didn't know about anything licensing outside of the general education from the courses that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And it all just kind of fell into place. The way the universe kind of does things.
Yeah.
They were looking, we have a conference, so anyone that it doesn't know, we have normally an annual conference. It's called the Production Music Conference, that happens in the fall, and they needed somebody to help plan that event. So when they were looking for this full-time role with the PMA, they I had event planning experience. I think that took like precedent over my industry knowledge.
Yeah.
I think they said, you can learn everything else. So, one thing led to another, and here I am 5.5 years later.
Yeah. That's dope. Like, I mean, just being skilled in something else and then allowing that kind of lead into another opportunity that you probably didn't even plan for to begin with. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I wish I had classes like that in college. Honestly, I'm kind of jealous because, like, I went to the Ohio State University, great university, but as far as what I was focused on, what I was trying to learn, there weren't many classes like as far as music business and publishing and things like that are concerned. Not up until I think they started adding classes like that once I was about to graduate. But literally it was only like music performance classes. I took a history of jazz class and like random stuff like that. But that's pretty cool that you were able to get some classes on that. That's dope.
It was very random. It was very, when I tell you it was random, the journey of me even going to get my master's is super interesting, just because I was looking at law school. Like I was looking at continued education, and just stumbled upon the program at CSUN. And it was like I think applications had already closed, but I emailed anyways and asked if there was room or they would still accept applications. Long story short, I applied, interviewed, because when you go get your continued education master's, you have to do like interviews with the department heads and stuff. So I had interviewed with the lead of the program, and it was like the day before classes started. So it all happened very fast. And very random. I kind of applied, and then a month later I was interviewing, and then the next day classes started. So they had already had orientation, and everybody else had met each other except for me.
Right.
I didn't have any books. I mean, it just all kind of, it speaks to, this is really important for everybody here. It really speaks to being aware of your opportunities and being super present all the time, because we can't always explain things. I can't always explain things as to how they've worked out the way that they've done. All I know is that opportunity has been there, and I've been ready for said opportunity and taken advantage of said opportunity. So, staying super present while also keeping, your eyes and ears and heart and soul and all of that open to opportunities from the universe or from whomever, is really important, especially in everything, in my opinion, in life, but especially if you're looking at like sync and placements and licensing, like some of these times, you never know where it's going to come. So eyes and ears and hearts and souls and all of that open all the time, and one thing will lead to another. And if you think on it and manifest it and pray on it and all of these things, it really does happen.
Yep.
Maybe not tomorrow, but it happens. So that constant consistency of being present while also projecting what you want out of life into the world is really important.
Yeah, that's a fact. I definitely agree with that. And just staying ready. Like I was listening to a podcast with a couple buddies of mine, Gabe and Sound Oracle, and pretty much Sound Oracle was just talking about how he was just on this journey to become a producer and things like that, and like the opportunity came to do sound design for some of the biggest producers we know. And that's not what his original intent was. They was just like, yo, can you put some sounds together for me? He's like, okay. And that grew into something, huge for him, and it helped propel his career. And I think it's just so dope because, you have to have that, like you said, that focus and that consistency on what you want, and at least be in the motion of trying to make that happen. But at the same time, be flexible enough to kind of pivot and shift when certain opportunities come, and make the most of them. So you mentioned law schools. Like, how did you go from, like, were you trying to be a lawyer, an attorney? Like, what happened that made you shift?
Yeah. There's no shift. I'm a timing, the timing situation is what it was.
Okay.
I think that's still something I will probably do
Okay.
at some point in my life. I don't know when, I don't know how soon, I don't know, I'm literally staring at my LSAT book that's sitting in my bookcase.
Yeah.
I wanted to do entertainment law. I thought that was, what I wanted to do. Obviously, when you talk to lawyers, they tell you not to. I say run in the other direction. But for me and like what the impact that I truly would love to have on the industry, and specifically for sync and licensing and composers and music for media. I mean, there's legislation and other things involved with that. So yeah, it's still on the table. It just took a back seat. I mean, I was essentially in a job that I was ready to leave, and so I was kind of looking for a next step. And like I said, I was looking for law school like in the LA area, and came across literally by chance came across the music industry administration program at Cal State Northridge. So it was by chance, truly.
Okay. Well, hey, let me know if you become an attorney, because I'll need your contact info.
Hey, I got all of you. I promise.
Appreciate it. So we got Boy Wonder. He says, how has COVID impacted PMA events?
Yeah. Yes, it has. How has it? Oh.
Yeah.
How? Okay. So obviously we didn't do our conference. So our conference, again, it's usually like 700 to 800 people that come in from all over the world. So it's not just US based. It's not just domestic. It's also international. We have international composer members and international library members. We didn't do our conference last year. We couldn't. But what we've done in its place is we birthed what we call the PMA Academy. And our PMA Academy sessions are on Zoom like the rest of the world. But anything from, like from COVID trends to anything. We have monthly webinars that we do with different guests. And then on top of that, we also added what we call like coffee hours and happy hours that are specific for our membership. And this is what Clint was talking about earlier, that we break off into breakout groups and kind of just mix and mingle virtually. So, it impacted because we weren't able to gather physically like we were able to in the previous years. And we also do, quarterly events. Normally we do an event in LA in February, normally an event in May in New York, and an event in August in Nashville that we had to, again, stop for the time being. Yep. So the cool part about that is, though, that all of these things will coexist as we open up and as the world opens up. I wouldn't say post-COVID, because I don't know that will ever be a time, but as it's safe to gather, we will have in-person events and then our monthly, virtual events as well, to just keep all of the touch points there for our membership and our community, the community in general, not just our membership.
Yeah, COVID has been crazy. Like, it stopped everything. Like, I had a tour planned last year, and that stopped. And I feel like literally everybody that had a live event planned like started using Zoom, and Zoom was the savior with live events, and just kind of pivoting around that. I think your video started doing weird things again. Yeah, but your audio is coming through like flawless. I don't know, but it'll sound good on the podcast at least. I don't know. Is it skipping for you guys, or is it just us on our end seeing it?
Yeah, please let us know in the comments if my video is stupid. Would it be better to join on my phone, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
Sorry, guys. I know I look crazy.
It's technology. I used to work in IT, so literally like nothing surprises me anymore.
But hey, me either.
I've seen it all. Shout out to Vibes in the City, eyes, ears, hearts, and souls. Yes, indeed.
Video is skipping. Sorry, guys.
Okay, it's skipping. Yeah, they said audio is good.
I don't know. Okay. Is there like an Ecamm app? that I should download?
No, there's no app. Like usually it's just browser based. Like I have an app, but I think you have to like have an account and all that stuff just to.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I could try to restart my computer fast. I don't know how serious it is for people. And my Wi-Fi are hardwired. I'm hardwired, guys. That's what I did first.
Yeah.
Ethernet in.
That's crazy. So now that we started talking about it, her video starts working right. It's crazy.
I know. Maybe I should close the millions of tabs or millions of things I have open.
Do you have a lot of tabs?
Always.
Multitasking. That may be why.
I'll try to close some stuff. Bear with me, guys. Possibly. It's not skipping now. Okay. Well, yeah. Sorry, guys. We'll make it work.
Yep.
We're always looking and searching for helpful info to provide artists in our community. Curated
There's over 200 shows that showcase 1,000+ artists. That's dope. Yeah, it's so much talent out here, man. Like I think a lot of artists and producers, they're just trying to figure out ways to monetize it. And that's why I love licensing and production music so much, because it gives people the opportunity to do that. Like no matter where you are, like you don't have to have a bunch of credits and major placements and Grammys and things like that. You know, you just have to make quality music and be a cool person to work with. And that, you know, it can work for you. Let's see. So yeah, as you guys are coming in, let me know where you're from. We have Morgan from PMA, which is the Production Music Association. We're talking about music licensing. So drop your questions in. It's a live Q&A. Uplifted Productions. I came in late. Did she say she worked for CSAC previously? I don't think you did.
No CSAC, but I do love CSAC and the team over there dearly. So,
I do too. Team CSAC.
We work with them. They're partners of ours, along with BMI and ASCAP, of course. But they are partners of ours. But no, I did not work at CSAC. We hold events there. They have a really great Nashville space. Their office is really cool in Nashville. So we do hold events at their office in at times pre-COVID.
Right. I have to visit their Nashville office. I heard it's pretty dope. They used to have one here in Atlanta, and it was real cool, like super laid back. You can go in. They had like a small studio where you can go kind of get ideas out. It was easy and accessible. Like you can go talk to a rep and get some things squared away. I love that. And then they shut that joint down. I don't know why, but yeah. So I think Nashville, LA, and maybe I think an office in the UK, and I think that's in New York. They have one in New York, but yeah.
Yeah.
Good people.
What libraries do you work with, Clint?
Yeah, so I have a deal with BMG Production Music. Actually just finished up a project with them not too long ago, so hopefully that comes out soon. Lab Hits. Just did a deal with Pink Shark Music. What are some of the other ones? Smash Coast Music. Shout out to Smash Coast. And a bunch of other like random ones that I signed with a long time ago that, you know, I kind of pitch to like occasionally here and there. So those are some of the few that I work with.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. There's so many.
Yeah, there is.
Many libraries. I should say that if anybody is that's in the audience is, you know, confused or doesn't know libraries or wants to know like where to look for libraries, we obviously can help with that. So we have like a prefix list on our website as well that has all distributors and prefix information. But all of this to say, there's a bunch of distributors listed, you know, on our website at our prefix list. But I'm also happy to share who our publisher members are for anybody here, through email, if anyone has any questions or just wants to know, maybe some libraries to start looking at. I know there's a million out there, and sometimes they're some are better than others. So and sometimes it's hard to narrow down kind of who is a good library and who isn't a good library. So if anybody has questions on libraries or any of that, obviously we're certainly here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like, I noticed when I first got in the game, like, there were a lot of new libraries that'll pop up, and then they'll go sign, like, a bunch of people who already have credits, and then they, like, post all those credits on the website, but then they're not actually, like, actively getting placements for the artists and composers and things like that. So there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah. So what you guys should look for in libraries is who their clients are. Not what music they have, none of that is important, and it doesn't matter at all. What matters is who their clients are. Most people, is it out there publicly? I mean, I would always ask before you sign your music over, what clients do you work with? Those are questions you are allowed to ask them. And the more networks that they work with, obviously the better. Again, I'm obviously certain or happy to help answer those questions too, because generally we know who's working with who. So it's tough. There's a lot of libraries and new libraries that pop up that don't have the relationships with the client yet, and they're trying to get to that point. They're trying to build their library up to be able to give it to a client for a client to use, and it just doesn't necessarily always work out well for them. They don't get the deal with the network. They don't, so they have all this music and they're holding all this music exclusively with no clients to pitch it to. So it's important that you guys ask what clients they work with before you sign over anything exclusively.
Yeah, that's a fact. So let me ask you, like, so we have libraries that are associated with PMA. So, like, what's the difference between a library who is associated with PMA versus one who isn't? Like, what are some things that kind of make them stand out when producers and artists are looking for music libraries?
So I would say that the libraries that are members of ours abide by like a certain standard. They're, in general, they don't take writer share. They do very standard 50-50 split deals. Like, those are we have core values and a set of standards that our publisher members have to abide by in order to be a member. So, again, things like not taking writer share, things like whatever. That's a big one. So I'm just gonna hold on to that one.
So that I've seen that. I won't put them out there, but so a buddy of mine that came to me, he was just like, yo, like, and it wasn't always this way, right? And he was just like, yo, they approached me with like this new deal structure or whatever, and he was just like, it's them actually taking like 50% of the writer share. And I guess I don't know what happened to the publisher's side. So what is that about?
Who you're talking about? What do you mean? What is it about?
I mean, help it make
make it make sense.
Make it make sense, because
anybody asking for your writer share, to me, and again, all of you are free to make your own decisions. If you feel like it's a good place for your music, I'm not here to stop you. But if they're asking for your writer share, generally they're trying to make up costs or make revenue where they are not making revenue. That flip, and I'm 90% sure I know who you're talking about. There was conversation around, well, everybody is doing it. This is how it's going to go moving forward. People are going to start taking writer share because of diminishing royalties and this and that. A, that's not true. Mm-hmm. B, it's predatory. It's very dangerous to go down that route of, all right, I'm going to just sign over 50% of my writers, because what they're essentially doing then is taking your they're taking money out of your retirement and your pension, because they need to make money somewhere.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they do this to help the value or help like valuation if they want to sell their library or be acquired by somebody. Sometimes they readjust these deals to then appeal to like the tech people or the investors, right? Like the investors that don't understand the music space. And they want to increase their valuation. So they start to kind of cut in. But anytime that you are giving away your writer share, you're giving away your retirement, you're giving away your pension, you're giving away money that is rightfully yours. Taking writing credit for something you didn't write sounds crazy. I know it happens a lot. Yeah, there are libraries that listen, there's also like libraries that are major, I will say one, that, you know, the way it operates a little bit is some writers like on salary, and then there is a bit of like pseudonym kind of ghostwrite stuff that happens, and you have to allocate a percentage of your writer share to that ghostwriter that may or may not have contributed to the track. Like that's still a thing in production music too.
Yeah.
In general, it's not the way to go. People taking your writer share, it's you give up your retirement, you're talking about your royalties that are for you, for your family. Like it's still copyright, you know what I mean? Like you're still entitled to this copyright plus 70 years, right? Like there's you are still entitled to that, your family, your any of your future, like that is still yours. And the moment you start giving that away, you start to diminish your royalty checks down the line. So that model or that switch from that business, what I imagine happened is they were trying to make up costs somewhere. It is expensive to run a library and to manage a library and to, you know, have things like use Source Audio, for example, to host your catalog. Like these things cost money. It's not cheap. And you know, if you don't have the client base, or the client base is coming to you and saying, hey, we don't want to pay you as much, you know, we only have this amount of money to give you this year, instead of, you know, say whoever the client is, a broadcaster comes to that library and, you know, says we can only offer you 50% of what we offered you in our last contract. Well, that library can either A, say, I don't want you, you know, I don't want to work with you, no client, like, you know, take that and run with it. Is that going to be the case? Probably not. Some of the smaller libraries don't have that, you know, that strength behind them to be able to go back and say and renegotiate and say, absolutely not. Are you crazy? So what they do is say, okay, in order to keep the client, we got you. Like, well, that's fine, and we are going to take that on the back end from our writers. So that, I think, is the logic. It stems from the broadcasters really undercutting fees and licensing fees, and then the libraries are kind of passing that on to the composers. It's not right. If you know, there should be some pushback and some negotiation power that your publisher has with the networks in order to protect its writers. But alas, it is business. Businessmen and women will make business decisions. So that's what I will say about that. But it's, you know, a lot of people walked away from that deal, and I'm thankful that they did, because what we don't want to happen is we don't want it to set precedent. We don't want all these new libraries popping up to come into the space and say, well, it's normal for us to take your writer share because that's precedent. Like, we don't want that to become precedent in the industry. So that's what we, you know, advocate against. Yeah.
Then you got new composers coming in who may not know, and then they're just thinking it's normal, and then it becomes normal, and you know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, when I heard about it, that's what it sounded like to me. I was just like, it sounds like they got cut as far as what they're gonna get, either like on the publishing side or whatever, and they're trying to recoup it from the writer side. And I was just like, that's your problem. That's not my problem. You know, I deliver the music. That's 100%. You gotta figure that out. So it's kind of crazy. So I try to tell, you know, everybody that I work with, like, yo, just a heads up, because That's what they're trying to push. So just watch out. So we got a couple questions. Board Wonder says, how can you verify if they actually worked with the clients? If the libraries actually worked with the clients?
That's a good question.
We're like, hey, call your clients on the phone and like.
No. I mean, listen, the most that you may be able to do is ask who their clients are, who they have contract with. Could they tell you the truth? Sure. Could they lie to you? Maybe. Yeah, like that's verification. I mean, I would look at social medias. Sometimes a lot of the established libraries will release release some of their new, like their bigger placements and things like that. So you can kind of get a feel for who is using what. I don't know that verification is necessarily like 100% possible, but I think it's just a question that you guys should get in the habit of asking before you sign over your stuff, right? Like, hey, can you just remind me who your clients are, or what clients you work with, or what clients have you worked with in the last year? Like, maybe give it a time frame. Verification is hard, but I think just asking that question is going to be enough.
Yeah, at least asking and making sure they're, they're working with who they perceive to be working with. Let me see. Midwest Nate said, in order to sign up for one of the pros, do I need established music or can I just sign up? I know when I first signed up with BMI, I just signed up. I didn't have anything released or anything like that. CSAC is a little different because I think even it's invite only, and like even to get with them, like I think you have to have like a lawyer or manager or something reach out to them. So in that case, you may have to kind of have a catalog established or some type of something established as an artist, a producer, or a songwriter.
And I will say too that CSAC just kind of dumped all of their commercial and advertising composers.
Oh, really?
Again, we're talking about this royalty conversation that's diminished. It's a tough conversation, so I think that they did a little bit of cleaning house just because of like admin stuff, and I think where they want to like focus their attention. And I don't know the specifics of that, so please don't quote me because I don't know all of the ins and outs, but I did hear that they, whatever. Wow. They let go of some of their composer members.
Wow.
But yeah, no, what Clint said is right. For us in BMI, I don't know what you mean by established, but generally, no, you can just sign up.
Cool.
As a writer, if you have a publisher, obviously you need a publishing entity that you would sign up under.
Cool. Broadway Blake says, when using royalty-free samples or loops, how do you fully protect your work if other artists using the same loops? That's the thing with loops, like those royalty-free, it's royalty-free loops. Yeah, that's
you can't. Don't use them. You can't. You won't. You can't. Libraries won't work with you. Music supervisors won't work with you. Don't. I mean, what I always say is, if you really are obsessed with a sample or a loop and you find it and it's like everything you've ever wanted and you just love it so much and you have to use it, you need to figure out how to recreate it. It's without sounding exactly the same. Don't use loops, guys. It creates a legal nightmare and a headache for you that you don't want. It's not worth it. It's not worth your legal fees. It's not worth it. Don't use them.
Funny story. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he so some composer. It was crazy. So he applied to join his library. So the library sends him, or he may have already been with the library, but they send him a brief, right, of tracks that they're looking for. So one of the tracks was like this demo track that he produced for some, I don't know if it was like a software, a plugin or something, loop based or whatever, but he produced the demo track and they literally used the demo track and like submitted it to the library. and he's just like, yo, this reference track you sent me, like, I made this and they shouldn't be using it this way. And it stopped everything. Like, they had to figure something out between the composer who used it and headache. Like, I always tell people, like, I don't use them, guy. It creates a headache in licensing.
I mean, and guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you have to rely on loops or samples to create your music, practice more your production skills, because if you have a loop, you know what I mean? If you have something as a reference that you just love, as a producer, as anybody, composer, that should be enough for you to go off of to create something that sounds the same but is your own. You have to be creative. Like, in the space as it is, with the saturation and how many people are in it as composers, like, you have to be creative. You have to stand out, and you're not going to stand out using sampled beats and anything sample, because
especially from Splice, like Splice.com, everybody's on Splice.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's a good one. Are you entitled to the copyright for 70 years, even if you don't register that copyright with copyright.gov?
I am not a lawyer, and I do not want to act as a lawyer, but so a lot of libraries, well, the songs will get registered. Yes, in general, you are entitled to copyright plus 70 years. I just don't want to get into ins and outs of how to do all of that, because I'm not a copyright attorney and I don't want to act as one. Yeah. But generally speaking, yes, you are entitled to the copyright. And even in my education, there's ways to prove copyright without registering it. So, like, yes, the answer is yes. Generally, if you're with a library, they will register and copyright this. They will own the copyright, so they would register the songs for you. Yes, the answer is yes, you are entitled to it, but it's really important to have your paperwork and all of that together.
Yeah. Good question. We got one from Boy Wonder. Do you need TV placements to sign up with PMA?
Not as a composer, no.
Dope.
No.
I mean,
we're here to help you get your first one.
That's what I was gonna say. I was just like, from the information that they share, like, if anything, they'll help you get that first placement.
Yeah, we're here to help get your first placement. So absolutely not.
Dope. Alavon says, would you recommend attempting to establish relationships with veteran attorneys and imprints on the game, like Ivy Tomback and Berkshire Music, or is it a wash with lesser established libraries?
Oh, Ivy was one of my original board members. Is she still in the space? I don't know if she's still in the space. Wow. It depends. It really is less about. So, okay, let me back up a little bit. Established libraries are going to be probably where you want to look first. Those that have been in the game for 10 years or so are where you want to probably look first. And I only say that because, like we were talking about earlier, there are a ton of new libraries that are trying to be in the space or are in the space. They may not have all of the clients that an established library has. And what they tend to do at first is build up their catalog. So you could run into a situation where it is a newer library that is trying to build up the numbers to get more clients, in which case your music would be sitting for a while or longer than it sits already in the space. So, established is always going to be probably the better way to go, but that's not to say that new libraries haven't popped up and been successful. Again, it's really dependent on who their clients are.
Yeah.
Everyone's so sad about the samples and the loops.
I know, the loop.
Sorry, guys.
Because it's just one of those. Because I create loop packs, but it's just when you're on the industry side, you know, it's a little different because you have, especially with major labels, you have attorneys that'll go through the headache of clearing a sample, like especially if it's like from a big record. But like sync is just different, like because like nobody's gonna go through that headache to, you know, to clear samples and things like that. You don't want to be like that guy who's like difficult to work with because everything he has is a loop or a sample, and now nobody will want to work with you. So here's a good one because people like to spam and like drop 50 MP3s in an email. Like, what's a good way to approach a library if you're trying to establish a relationship from your perspective, and you know, just from the libraries that you work with and communicate with on a regular basis? What do you see?
All right, I'm gonna do a little bit of a plug, and I mean this in the most respectfulest, non-salesy way ever. Join the PMA.
Boom.
Join the Production Music Association. I mean, it's okay. So join the PMA. We'll start there. But how to contact a library? Do your research. Check out their social media. Listen to what they're releasing, what their new releases are. Look at their website. If you have music that you think fits in a certain library, you know, look through their catalog. Listen to their catalog. What else? Okay, so listen to the catalog. Pay attention to their new releases. You know, I will be very candid and say that if you are submitting through the general submission portals that most of these libraries have on their websites, the chances of your stuff getting heard and or even them getting to it, even seeing it in the inbox full of 1,000 other people a day that have submitted stuff to them, it's very rare. So you want to do a bit more legwork. You want to find out who you should be submitting to. You want to try to find them, you know, professionally and personally. A lot of these people speak at events. They hold panels. They all come to PMA events, for example.
Join PMA.
You know, and I'm not trying to be salesy in any way, shape, or form. But when we're in such a saturated market, there are libraries that won't work with new composers unless they are PMA members, just because of quality and standard, right? Like, we're talking standards. So it makes my life a lot easier. I mean, I speak to a lot of composers that I put in touch with libraries and publishers all the time. I'm happy to do it, but it makes it a million times easier when you're a PMA member and they're a PMA member, and it's like, hey, meet our newest PMA member.
Yeah.
I think they have stuff that works for your catalog. I can, you know, put in a word for you, and that one thing leads to another. But if you are dead set on, you know, cold emailing people, keep it short. Keep it really short. Back up. Find the person you need to email. Try to get their email directly. Keep your email short as fuck. Keep it short. Keep it really short.
Super short.
But tailored, right? Tailored to the library. Say, hey, just saw you guys put out this new album of country trap. Let's go there. Just saw your new country trap release. I have some really great country trap songs. If you plan on doing a second volume or a third volume that may fit in the next volume, here's a link. Always send links. Don't send MP3s. And disco, I said this on the last one. I said this when I crashed last time. Disco is becoming and is the industry standard now.
Fire.
So if you're not on disco, get disco. That's how people want to be pitched to. No more SoundCloud links. The disco links are always going to be the best. So, you know, it does take research. I don't know that there's a best way to reach libraries in a general statement. Every library is different. Trailer libraries operate differently than commercial and advertising libraries. The majors operate differently from each other independently, right? Like, the Sony will operate differently from the APMs and Universal. So it really depends on the library, and it depends on you as an individual. So you have to really, like, be yourself, but put that work in, do the research, and then be yourself and start to meet people and start to introduce yourself and start to be, present and engaged in the community. That's always going to be your best bet. But it is certainly the way you approach libraries is different across the board. So, it takes some legwork. And again, I'm not trying to be salesy, but the PMA, this is where we come in. This is where we help. This is exactly what we do to help you guys kind of get understanding as to, if you do want to approach like a video helper, for example, what's the best way? You should know that video helper has composers on salary. You know what I mean? Like these things that you may not know on how the libraries operate. We're here to shed insight on that. So, but generically speaking, do your research, find out their new releases, go through their catalogs, find if you do a certain specific type of music and they have a ton of it, the chances of you getting accepted into that are slim to, very slim. So how can you take that one step further? How can you make pop something that doesn't exist in their library? Things, get creative. You've got to get more creative in your genre and your creation.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I always tell people too, like if you have a genre that isn't that they don't have a lot of, like that could be a dope opportunity for you to get in and create some albums for them, and just really stand out and kind of be in your own lane, and they'll know exactly who to hit up for this specific style of music because they don't have millions of of that kind of music already. So that's
also
super dope.
I will also say that co-write. Look for co-writing opportunities. Look for composers like Clint who are already working in the space that maybe you could do a track with, and that's a way that a lot of people get into libraries, and then you establish that reputation on your own, and you're able to go to them and say, hey, I did this song with so and so that's on this album of yours. So they already have it in their catalog. That makes the conversation a lot easier. So co-writes are a great way, and then looking at the catalogs that are published or distributed or sub-published under some of these majors or other libraries, and trying to go direct to that source instead of going direct to Universal. So going, like, for example, the License Lab is a really great library that just got signed a distribution deal with Elias, and Elias is under Universal. So instead of going to Universal directly, maybe go to the License Lab. So just trying to find the catalogs that are represented by the majors or bigger publishers. That's a way in as well. They generally get less submissions because they're not the Universal.
That's how I got in with BMG. Actually, it was I had started with a smaller library, and they were established. They've been in the game for a while, but they still managed to stay small. But then BMG came in and like literally bought them out, and then now that the music coordinator for that company ended up getting a position with BMG, so now she's a coordinator over there. So now she pulls me in on different projects. So yeah, it can happen like that. You just start with the smaller ones that are under the big ones, or sometimes they get bought out by the big ones. So yeah, super dope opportunity. Black Keys wants to know, how much is the membership fee?
Composers are $99 a year.
Yeah,
$99. If
and
you do plan.
I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say, if if you write off like your business expenses as a producer too, like it's a membership fee for your business, so it's deductible. So
it's 100% tax deductible. We're a nonprofit, so 100% tax deductible. And if you do come to like our conference, for example, usually there are it's usually like a $70 difference in members pricing for tickets versus non-member pricing for tickets. So if you do a $99 membership and you plan on coming to the conference, you save that $70. So essentially your membership is like $29.
Nice. Yeah, that's super dope. Let me see. So we'll take one more, and then I won't hold you. I know you got stuff to do.
Oh, it's fine. I'm on vacation.
Oh, that's right. Well, we don't want to keep you on live for the whole vacation. Let's see. Is it acceptable to include tracks of multiple genres in a single electronic music album? For example, future bass, trap, house, moon bath. I don't know what that is, etc. In a single album while pitching for the first time. So he just hit you with like 5 different genres in one album. What do you think about that?
So there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, it's acceptable. Sure. Electronic music is interesting because it definitely covers like future bass, trap, house. Yeah, I mean that all essentially I would consider under electronic. So yes, it's kind of subgenre y, but it's still singular genre y at the same time. No. So yeah, I would say that's fine. Something to note in pitching like full albums. I don't know how many tracks we're talking about, but I mean, if you are brand new and pitching, you probably have like your first 3 tracks need to be your best. Your first one needs to be your best. The best track you ever did in your entire life needs to be number 1. That second one needs to be right up there with quality, and that third one needs to be right up there as well. Anything underneath that, the chances of people getting to those are slim. Music directors and soups don't necessarily go that far down. If they know, again, if they like the first song, they will generally listen to the second. They may give it 2 shots, 2 songs, and then close it out. So you're talking about maybe 15 to 30 seconds of your songs that they're listening to if you're pitching. So make sure that there's not, I was listening to someone's tracks this last week where he had like 15 seconds of not like dead sound, but 15 seconds of kind of like build sound that was very slow and very quiet, and you lose the attention just like that. So you have to like get to the point. So as long as you're getting to the point early in your 30 seconds, like your top 30 seconds of your song, generally you put yourself in a good position. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's acceptable for sure. All of the subgenres that you mentioned would be fine under an electronic pitch. But just be aware that you probably have 3 songs to showcase your talent and a total of like a minute and a half in total between 3 songs to really get that, to really showcase.
Yeah, it's a good question. Absolutely. So, Morgan, let the people know like where they can find you, where they can get in touch. I've been posting the PMA website, so they know where that is. But in case they wanted to get in touch with you for more information or whatever, how can they do that?
Yes. So my email is morgan@pmamusic.com. So it's morgan@pmamusic.com. You can put that up too.
Will do.
Email me at any point. My Instagram is Morgan McKnight. I'm there too. But if it's business related, take it to email. I'm much better at email for business stuff. And I'm always, I'm happy to answer any questions. There's a couple things in here that I want to answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you chop and manipulate free loops, making them unrecognizable? Yes. If you're going to use samples and loops, please chop them. Please make them unrecognizable. Please do that. So I guess I should have been more clear in that conversation. That is to me not using a beat that's still making it your own and being creative. So you absolutely can do that. And it is highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Versus just pulling it off the site as is and just using that same loop over and over and over throughout the whole song. Yeah.
Exactly. Where will the New York conference be? So we normally, New York will probably be back in New York in May of 2022. So not this month, not this year, but generally it's like 100 or so person event, 150. It's much smaller, and we usually have it hosted at the ASCAP offices in New York. Dope. So that is to be determined still pending COVID 2022. Yeah. And then if an artist submits music that they worked on with producers, so the beats are sample free because she assumes they have the rights to a royalty free sample, are both held accountable. Yeah. I mean Yeah, I mean, it depends on what contract you have with the producer. If you're working with a producer, it would depend on what liabilities you have under that contract. If there is no contract, you should make one.
Yep.
It depends. So that answer will be it depends as well. But if you have no contract and there is no, assumption of liability, then yes, you are both accountable.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, because it's always those. Everything starts with good paperwork, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, making sure the paperwork is straight. I have some really good records just sitting on a computer because paperwork wasn't done originally, and people get amnesia and they forget who said how much of a percentage they own, and then an agreement can never be reached, and it sucks. So. And I don't know why people have like this thing, especially being in the studio, like nobody wants to talk business. It's just like, oh, I don't want to kill the vibe. I just want to be creative. But it's like, deal with that first. Like now, like before I work with artists, we sit down, we have a conversation. Like, this is what the contract is. This is how I do work. And then that's it. And that way, if there's any issue, you don't waste time creating a bunch of music. And then it doesn't work anyway. You get it out the way, you talk about it up front. It's in writing, and then when you get to the point to where it's time to license something, everything is already in writing, splits are in writing, and it just makes the process that much smoother from there.
Yeah, 100%. And I can't emphasize that enough, guys. Especially even in production music, in label side, in publishing side, any side of the music business.
Yeah.
If you have your paperwork together beforehand, you are going to make your life a lot easier. You don't want to go backwards and have to clear stuff. You want to have it set in stone. So anything that you create, if you are co-writing or whatever the case may be, put it on paper. Just even if it's the simplest contract, like there are contract templates that exist through places like the SEL. There are contract templates everywhere. Grab one.
Yep.
Get it together. Have the contract together, because you're just gonna save. You're gonna save yourself time. You're gonna have to like not go back and recreate music that you've already done. Like, it's just always gonna put yourself in a position to be licensed and be used, and any and all of the above. So paperwork, yes, is important. I highly recommend it. And if you are working with someone who doesn't want to do paperwork,
don't work
find someone else to work with.
Exactly.
Find someone else to work with.
That's a red flag, man. Anybody who's scared of paperwork, like, it's to protect both of you. It's not a one-sided thing. Like, I would run super fast if somebody doesn't want to sign something. That's crazy. So yeah, make sure you guys follow Morgan on IG. Did I post your IG? Let me make sure. Let me post that up.
It's posted up, and everyone has my email. Again, reach out. If there are any questions that maybe you didn't want to ask here, or you are in like a personal situation you need advice for, email me. I'm happy to find answers for you guys.
Indeed. Thanks again, Morgan. I appreciate your time. Appreciate the expertise that you shared with us today. Shout out to PMA. Love what you guys are doing, and glad to be a part of it. And anybody that's watching, I definitely highly recommend you guys join PMA, especially if you're in the production music space, music licensing. Super dope resource and super dope group of people to be surrounded by. So yeah, absolutely. All right, so I won't hold you guys. We're gonna hop off of here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, smash the thumbs up if you enjoyed this live stream. And you guys have a good rest of the week. Morgan, enjoy the vacation, please. Enjoy.
Thank you. I'll be on maid of honor duty, so I'll enjoy as best I can.
Nice. All right, have a good time. You're welcome. Absolutely.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Peace.